Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
Welcome to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo, Dr. Shirley and medium Kellee White. Two perspectives, one world. This is Both Sides Now.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for watching, given that it's Super Bowl Sunday, or maybe you've taped this and you're watching it later. I'm Dr. Shirley.
And I'm medium Kellee White.
And John, our engineer, is
Hello,
here.
hello. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes. So today we're going to talk about HSP.
Which is actually one of my favorite subjects, believe it or not.
So why don't we tell our listeners what that is in case people don't know?
Highly sensitive person.
I'm sure that all of you out there, including us in here, know someone who can fall under that category. And let's talk a little bit about the symptoms, or the symptoms and characteristics, really.
Well, and first of all, I should say this is not a diagnosis in the DSM.
Yeah, it's not a diagnosis. It's
should be.
Well, because, I don't see, there's a lot of controversy about, labeling people and using, the DSM, which is basically the book that therapists and psychiatrists use to diagnose people, right? Yeah. And I don't see it as a label. I see it as an understanding. When I found out about stuff with me, like my attachment style, I was like, oh, I get it now. So to me, it's a deeper understanding. But everybody doesn't fall exactly into that category, and it's not a good idea to box people in that, but to better understand what the characteristics are.
Right, and I should probably, let me give a little story of how this all even came to me, how I even heard about HSP.
Right.
I was on a cruise in Australia, and I was actually with James Van Praagh, cruise with him, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, we did.
And I had a roommate. Her name was Wendy, and I could tell this story because Wendy is the one that told me all about this diagnosis. Are about HSP. I had a roommate, Wendy, and she was so fun and so funny, and we laughed so hard and so many times. But I noticed that she was very sensitive to things, like very sensitive about smells and sights and people. And finally, I asked her, "Is there anything up?" And she said, "Well, I am HSP." And I said, "HSP? What in the world is that?" But thank you for sharing that. And a highly sensitive person. So, of course, when I got back, I really learned everything I could about HSP because I felt that it was so important to know. And half my patients are, half my clients.
Yeah. Well, and the sad thing is that sometimes they get told, either as kids by their parents or by their spouses, you're too sensitive.
Right.
That word too, T-O-O, is really offensive because it is what it is. You can't be too much as if there's something wrong with it.
Well, it's a negative.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with it. It's understanding it and learning how to work with it. Because you're right. It's. I'm looking at some characteristics now. There's wonderful websites out there. The one that I'm looking at, and I think you have as well, is hsperson.com. And it gives you, it gives you a self-test if you want to do that. But it's, do you get rattled when you have a lot to do in a short amount of time? Are you overwhelmed by such things as bright lights, strong smells, coarse fabrics, sirens? Do you make a point of avoiding violent movies and TV shows? So I remember when I read that, I said, "Ooh, am I HSP?" Because I avoid them. I don't like to watch that stuff.
Well, do you need to withdraw during a busy day? Do you need to take time for yourself? Do you make a high priority to arrange your life to avoid upsetting and overwhelming situations? Do you notice a delicate fine scents, taste, sounds, or works of art?
And have you told by your teachers or parents that you were too sensitive, and there's a tendency also to be shy? But again, you can. Some of these characteristics can feel familiar to you and some not. And again, it's not about labeling, it's about understanding.
Well, I know that I am HSP, and I'm an empath, as you know. Clairvoyant medium, you have to be an empath to have that ability.
And explain to the audience what empath is.
An empath is somebody that can feel emotions from other people. And so if somebody comes to me, I mean, I have to really guard myself that if they're sick, that I don't feel sick, or if they're, in a rage or not in a rage, that's not a word. If they're sad, that I don't get sad, because I can pick up, I can walk in a room and know immediately what's going on, which is a big trait for an HSP person.
Well, because you're highly sensitive to
Highly
that already, so
sensitive,
it can be overwhelming.
It
yeah.
can be overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, and they say that it's innate, that they actually they find, because it's the way your brain is wired at birth, and that they found over 100 species that have the same brain wiring, from dogs to cats to even insects, and I don't know how they see a insect's brain, but so it is innate,
It's innate, yeah.
and it's much better to learn how to be with it and how to take care of yourself than to fight against it or think that there's something weird going on with you, or to for your spouse to be arguing with you to change.
You and I have often talked about this. You will see couples where one of them is very sensitive, highly sensitive, and the other one is highly insensitive, like an oaf, or somebody who's so obtuse. I had a couple like that the other day. I could not get over it. And he was proud of the fact that he was insensitive, and she was clearly HSP.
Yeah.
But it helps them when you give somebody that information.
It normalizes it, I think, for them.
Normalizes
Yeah.
it. Oh my God, this is me.
So what do you think the difference is between HSP and empath then?
Well,
I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot.
yeah,
but just,
it's a good question. I don't know if there is a difference.
Okay.
Well, I guess maybe an empath is taking it to another degree.
Okay.
Like I just...
But empath is feeling what other people are feeling as if it's their own feeling, right?
Right.
So,
So I think that would be the difference.
HSP would be
if I'm very sensitive because you're in a bad mood,
Yeah.
then I'm sensitive to your anger, but I
Yeah.
don't know I can't.
Right.
It's different than an empath, I think, right? I mean,
No, it's very similar, because as an HSP person, you can walk into a room and go, "Oh, they don't like me," or "Oh, I'm overwhelmed," or any of that. I think empath is, because I've directed my focus to be an empath, so I've learned how to work with it.
Okay.
can we describe it then kind of as the difference between you knowing that it's their stuff because you're an empath, so
That's
you're
good.
picking up on their stuff, versus me then making assumptions based
Right.
on
Yes.
the energy that I'm picking up
Yes,
on?
yes.
Okay.
And having
Okay.
said that, there are still those moments where I'll go, is it me? Is it?
Yeah.
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 But I can tell the difference. And
Yeah.
at this point, I can tell the difference.
And do you think
Right.
someone is born this way, or do they eventually
Yes.
evolve into becoming more sensitive over time?
As an HSP?
Yeah,
or
as
an
a
empath?
HSP.
Well, they're saying on this website that it's innate, that
Okay.
you're kind of born this way because it's the way your brain is
Hardwired.
Configured.
configured.
Got it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I mean, all of us have
Yeah.
known, small babies that are much more sensitive to
than other kids.
babies or
we
children,
call
yeah.
that temperament.
Temperament,
and
right.
and you are. That's the one thing that we are born with is temperament. So yeah, you see that some kids are slow to warm up. Some kids are very sensitive about babies sensitive about noise and stuff. And there's another kid that you can put in the middle of
Right.
a busy
An oaf.
mall
Put 'em
or
in the middle.
something, right? And they're okay.
Right.
So
Very
yeah,
true.
Yeah, and I think along with that, it's also if you're not that sensitive or an oaf like you're saying, that's okay too. But it's learning how to be with that.
Right, because there's so many HSPs in the world too, and there are a lot of people that are insensitive in the world. So if we can learn to work together, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
But at least to have some understanding of what an HSP might go through.
Right.
Because it's not easy to be an HSP.
Yeah.
You get bombarded by sights or smells, or you may not want to go out of the house too much because that sun is just too bright, and and that person, I don't know, that person smells, and I mean.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's taking it to a high degree, but I certainly know people
Well,
like
it
that.
falls on a continuum, I think, like everything
Right.
else. And there's, a lot of times there's we need to make a differentiation between someone with borderline personality
Let's
disorder
talk about
and
that.
HSP.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So people with borderline personality disorder are highly sensitive
Yes.
as well, but it kind of has a different flavor to it. They're highly sensitive. They believe that everyone is slighting them or rejecting them, and they tend to go to rage.
That they'll be abandoned.
Right. There's a huge fear of abandonment, and then they tend to see the world in black and white. Either something is great or something is awful. And you're saying that HSP doesn't have that black and white thinking.
No, they don't have black and white thinking. And the other thing is they don't necessarily rage.
Right.
Rage is a huge thing for borderlines. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I mean, you can be HSP and borderline.
yeah. Yeah.
But you can also
Well,
just be HSP. It's often when I have people that are HSP, I am looking, I'm scanning. Are they going to blow up?
To
Am I
see
going to
if-
walk on
yeah.
eggshells?
Yeah.
I mean, are they going to walk on eggshells? Am I going to feel it? No,
Right.
am I going to walk on eggshells because I feel it from them?
Because
That's what I meant.
because you don't know when it's gonna
Right.
when
And
it's
so
gonna hit.
I don't know. So sometimes you have to really wait it out to see.
Yeah.
They're
So
about HSP.
so they're different. They're different. Someone can have both, but they are different. An
But they
HSP
are
person
absolutely different.
doesn't necessarily have borderline personality disorder,
Right.
and the other way around.
Well, and another thing, as borderlines, they split people.
yeah,
So HSP, no, we don't have that.
they don't split people.
No.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there is a difference.
There are differences.
Yeah. I can see where it might feel the same sometimes, but because of the sensitivity.
Because of the sensitivity, right, and the kind of overwhelming emotions at times.
Right,
Yeah, but that's
right.
at the surface. Let's say of a borderline, and there's a lot of other stuff, underneath. Whereas HSP, that's kind of it. That kind of overwhelmingness or sensitivity of just too much coming at
And,
you.
and there's a great test that you can take online, HSP test, highly sensitive person test, to see if you fit into any of these, any of this.
Yeah.
I think there are about 100 questions. We should put that up
Yeah.
at some point because it's pretty interesting.
And to really just learn about it. The more you know
Right.
about yourself, knowledge is power. The more you know about yourself, the more you can then take care of yourself and be have some self-compassion and know that if you're going to go to a concert because you really want to see your favorite band, then you may need to rest the next day, and that's okay.
Right. And also, it will help you. You may say, oh my God, that's my mother. Who knew? My mother
Right.
was really sensitive. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She must have. And then you'll have a lot of compassion for
Right.
the other people in your life if you are not HSP, or if you are HSP. Oh my God, that's really hits me.
Right, exactly. To
Love
have
it. It makes
compassion
so
for
much
yourself.
sense, of course.
And for the people around you, you can start to depersonalize it. And that
Yes.
is so key.
Oh, absolutely.
So key to depersonalize and not think that it's something about you or that you're causing it, that it just
Right.
is what it is in this other person. And again, you can help. You can help yourself with that. Yeah.
And I think we may have some HSP people on the line. So do you want to go to the
Yay.
callers?
Yes, we do.
let's do
All
that.
right, so
That
let's
would
go
be
to our
great.
first call. Our first caller is Jasper on the line. Jasper, are you there?
Hey guys, how are you?
Hi, Jasper. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm loving this opening. I'm identifying with so much that you're saying, so it's fantastic.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Wow. Jasper, do you feel that you're HSP?
Well, apparently I am. I was just I don't know if you use the word diagnosed. No, I guess I was just told by my therapist that that's what I am after many years of I would say struggling in many ways of more. And my question too, what I've found recently is my HSP has seemed to get more prevalent the older I've gotten.
Oh, how interesting.
I used to say I could sort of fake it till I make it. I could fake it better when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then I turned 50 2 years ago, and I thought I was in like a midlife crisis, but which I think I am, but that's a whole other thing. But I think the HSP has been more profound to the point where it's caused panic attacks and really bad anxiety and wanting to avoid situations that normally I could have dealt with in the past by plowing through it. More recently, it's where I get to the point where I just avoid it altogether, which is kind of hard to function that way. But anyway, yeah, I'm HSP in my personal life. Because I'm an actor, I'm in show business, I can sort of be an extrovert and an introvert at the same time.
Well, that's also interesting because what is your birth date?
It's February 1st, 1964.
You come in as an actor. You must be an incredible actor because you come in with that.
Well,
and you also
thank
come
you.
in with, you have to make sure that you always make the right choice. Err on the side of being good.
Right.
And you also come in with a high regard for spirituality in this lifetime. And somebody who has a high regard for spirituality in this lifetime often will be HSP. So, we choose what we want to do before we incarnate. And I would have to say for you that you probably feel so deeply that must help you in your roles, I would think. Do you have trouble pulling out of a role?
Well, in some degrees, but you're right. I'm able to completely go into my work, and I'd say recently I'm more comfortable in my work than I am in my private life recently, which is kind of scary. But meaning I live very well in front of the camera, and then it's between action and cut.
Oh, well, is it a safety net for you there then when you're acting?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I would think that it would feel like you're kind of taking a break from you.
Yeah, and I think what happens is the part of the brain, or the sensitive part of the brain, I'm not focused on being sensitive so much personally. I'm just doing the work, and so it takes my thoughts off of that,
Yeah. I think because you're so focused on the character, that it may actually feel like, okay, it's a character, it's not me, and so you might be able to kind of let things, not even notice things, because you're playing this character.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I would think actually calm your anxiety.
Yeah.
HSP.
Well, it does. That's what I said. I'm totally comfortable and calm, and I laugh about that. I can go to an audition. Lately, I'm anxious going there, waiting in the waiting room. The moment I go in the room, I could stay in there for 4 hours and I'm fine. And then the moment I walk out, I'm perfectly fine. So it's the anticipation. It's I don't like the crowds in the waiting room. I don't like the noise. It's too bright. I can't deal with it. But again, that's only intensified in the last year or so. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, is it going to get worse as I get older?
Well,
so,
I'm getting that your mother was HSP. Is that correct?
Yes, I think she was. My mother was also, and she's passed. Passed, but she was an alcoholic, and I grew up a child of an alcoholic, and she was a wonderful lady when she was not drinking. But in hindsight, looking back on her life, I believe she drank to sort of self-medicate.
Right.
Well, that would make sense because alcohol is a depressant. So you can kind of tell a little bit about the person with their drug of choice. And alcohol and marijuana are depressants, whereas cocaine, for example, or amphetamines are kind of lift you up from depression, for example. But, it makes sense that you would feel it more because from a brain standpoint, that circuitry in the brain just gets stronger and stronger. It's kind of like the tracks of, when you go skiing, when it's powder snow, it's very soft snow. But if you use that same track over and over again, the snow underneath it becomes almost rock-like, or a hiking trail. Grass stops growing where people keep walking. So it gets a little bit stronger. And so that could be a reason. And we become, I think, a little less tolerant as we get older. I'm not sure if that's a brain function as well, that we just become a teeny bit less tolerant. But I think that, your therapist, if you fall into this category, really did you a service by letting you know that this might be something. And so I think once, as I was saying in the intro, once we get to know about ourselves and it starts to make sense, there's like this different level of understanding and there's less judgment, even if we don't realize we're judging ourselves, you know? So there's different things that you can do to help you out.
Right. That's it. Yeah, that's how I feel. When you said knowledge is power, I'm big on that. And I'm just trying to take this next phase. It's just interesting because it's almost like when I turned 50, a lot of things happened. My mom died. I sold a property of 25 years. There was a lot of change. A lot of stuff happened. But it seems like since all that happened, I don't know. I was going to ask you, does trauma play into does trauma make an HSP even more sensitive?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because when you come from trauma, your brain is programmed to kind of, be in a threatened, place or feel unsafe. And so you have heightened awareness of your surroundings. The brain is an organ that wants to predict. It's a prediction organ because that's what kept us alive. If we can predict the future, then we can plan for it. So that would kind of add on to or amplify really your already kind of sensitive temperament.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because when I was struck by lightning when I was 13, and I survived. And
Wow.
a lot of my physical ailments that I go to a doctor who treats migraines, and she's always telling me there are people who are in a migraine state, which I think is just another way of saying HSP to light sensitivity and sounds, but it does turn into a lot of physical symptoms for me, which the anxiety goes to that. But a lot of the stuff I'm experiencing later in life has been kind of attributed back to when I was struck by lightning, especially with like a neck injury and back injury and stuff that set in with arthritis and stuff much later.
Let me ask you something. When you had that, did you have a spiritual experience during that time?
I did. I was only 13. My brother, unfortunately, I had a 16-year-old brother that was killed with me at the same time.
Oh, my gosh.
So it was traumatic in the sense that we were struck at the same time.
Wow.
One bolt, it split, and he died instantly, and I survived. And so that's sort of it put me on a whole path of life after that.
Wow.
But I don't recall. I mean, I think I just have, spotty memory of when it happened at the time. I think what happens is your body goes into shock.
Yeah.
The brain goes into shock and somehow protects us, maybe. I don't know.
I tell you what, I'd love for you to look up Dr. Robert Gramlich, Gramlich, and look at his website, because he's a homeopathist who does incredible work.
Okay.
And when just to be struck by lightning is a huge deal. And what I said earlier is you really came into this lifetime for us taking a true spiritual path. Now, coming up for you, I see a lot of balance that's going to be coming in for your life.
Oh,
okay, a lot of
thank
balance.
God.
I mean, it's been off balance. You are somebody that will have to always walk the best appropriate way, always. Because if you didn't, you'll get in trouble. You always have to.
Right.
And your sensitivities, I would say I would keep them open, expand your sensitivities towards healing yourself, and possibly even healing others, because you come in with you actually come in with healing abilities, not because you were struck by lightning. That was just a part of to get your circuitry set up this way. But as your second part of your life goes on, you have a lot of spiritual. They're telling me that you do a lot of charity things. Is that correct?
I do. Yes. I do.
It's because you'll be doing more of that, and they don't want you to lose sense of yourself. And it's not being selfish when you go. They're talking about being selfish and not being selfish. Have you been concerned about being too selfish?
No. Well,
Okay.
I because I'm an actor, I so hate that cliche of the narcissistic actor. So I think I tend to constantly downplay it the other direction.
Okay.
So I tend to.
Because I
try to
don't get
never
that
be
from you.
selfish.
I don't get the narcissist there. I don't get that. But I can see where you would say that. But for you, I don't get that. I mean, I really am getting that you've come in to do spiritual work on some level. And even so, I would leave the sensitivity and bless that sensitivity. It makes you an incredible actor, and also it brings people to you. It will always bring people to you. So it's not a
That's
negative.
great.
It is not a negative.
Yeah, that's the key, is trying, I think, for all of us, just to learn to turn it into a positive. And like you said earlier, just learn how to embrace it and live with it. Make
Embrace
it. Work for
have a sense of humor about it. Yeah. And pay attention, because your mom, your brother, and your grandmother all come through to you often, particularly when you're in your dream state. But you've seen them. They come through to you. I'm being shown that they sit on your bed. Was your brother really good in math? Because I'm getting math calculus or something. I don't know what that's about, but I'm getting math around him.
Yeah, well, he was sort of the cliche. I mean, not in a bad way. The cliche of the perfect athlete, student, everything. He was smart at all the.
Yeah, he's
all
very
the
smart.
subjects. Yeah.
Very smart. You know, he walks a lot with you. He spends a lot of time with you. Do you run, or did you used to run? Because he's wanting you to get back in shape.
Yeah, I was a big runner. I'm a hiker now. I walk instead of running, just because of the knees and the just because of the age factor. But I was a runner for many years, and I walk like an hour and a half every day.
Okay, because he walks with you. He's talking about lifting, rowing. I'm not sure, but just movement for you. He wants you
Yeah,
to
a lot
stay
of work.
active and
Yeah.
busy, and it's not your time. And it was his time during that time. That was an agreement that he made. It was his time. So if you
Wow.
carried any guilt with that, it's not guilt is not your friend. It's not it was supposed to happen this way. It was an agreement
Great.
that you
Yeah, I've
all
always-
made.
I've always felt that I was left here apparently for a reason.
You
So,
betcha. You know.
Yeah.
And he's telling me
Wow.
that you really did help with your mother too. You did help with her. And did you help her over? Did you tell her it was okay
Well,
to go?
I got to visit with her a few months before I was called home thinking this was the moment, and I got to really sit with her for 5 or 6 days and sort of just go over everything. And let me just say, my mom was sober for almost as long as she drank, so we had all those years
good.
of her being sober that made up for the childhood stuff. But and then she asked me before she passed to speak at her funeral as well, which I flew back home to do shortly after she passed. But I wasn't actually there the day she passed.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, they send you love and blessings and onward with your life. Onward with
thank
your
you.
life. Keep that sensitivity open.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm gonna do that, even on these hard days when I want to just not leave the house.
I know. Well,
I
I want you to
will,
look at that website too, Dr. Robert Gramlich. Look at his website because a homeopathic remedy would really help with that. It would help bring up your vital life force.
Great. This is fantastic. Wow. Well, listen, thank you so much for inviting me on today, and it's been a great help, and hopefully it'll help other people listening.
Well, I'm so glad, and I want to say something also before. Have you ever had any kind of somatic work, body work?
You're right.
Not you mean in a healing process, like a
Yeah.
no, I haven't. And you're right earlier about spirituality. I've always been on this seeking path, Course in Miracles, all of that. But the body part I have not done, and I probably really would benefit from it.
I absolutely, because I'm looking one up now so I can give you the referral. Particularly with that shock trauma of getting hit by lightning, but also the developmental trauma, which we call, when we've had trauma in our childhood. Trauma, the body holds all the trauma. And so it's so important to work it through the body so your body can release it and doesn't hold on to it. So I would suggest that you look up, I can put something on the website, depending on where you live. I know a lot of great people in Los Angeles that do the hands-on body work, but there's also, I don't know if she would have it on her list, but there's a woman who teaches it, Kathy Kain with a K, Kathy, Kain. And if you Google her name, she's one of the big trainers. She's up north in this type of therapy, but you might be able to either get in touch with her to have her give you some referrals, or maybe there's a referral list on her website.
Oh, perfect.
But I would highly
definitely
recommend and almost venture to say that I'm almost certain that you will find, you will notice differences. Because when it comes to pain, there's very real, of course, medical pain, especially when we've been hurt physically. Physical pain. But it's always important to kind of get rid of the emotional, the emotional stuff that may be stuck there. And so then you just have to deal with the actual physical pain that comes from a medical reason.
Right. Well, I love this because actually, it's funny, my therapist referred, now I'm remembering, a lady here in Palm Springs that does this exact same thing, and I've got to contact her. So this is a double confirmation to me that that's someone I need to talk to.
Wonderful. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend you to do that. I think that you're going to find a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, listen, thank you again. You guys are fantastic. Great show. And this has been a great help for me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for
Jasper.
calling,
Thank
Jasper.
you.
Thank you. We wish you the best.
And happy belated
thank you so
birthday.
much.
Yes. Happy
thank
belated
you.
birthday.
Yeah, well, wait a minute. It's
I
not belated. What is
appreciate
it, February 1st?
Oh, yeah. February 2nd.
February 2nd. Well, today isn't February 2nd.
No.
February 1st.
Today's February. No, he's February 1st. Is
I
his
got it right.
birthday.
So it's tomorrow, right? Because it's my dad's birthday.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's tomorrow, Monday. So happy birthday before
We're saying
your
belated
birthday.
because we're pre-recording.
Yeah, well, that's okay. It's I had it
Shirley's
already,
gotta,
but it
she's
was
going to
fantastic.
get with the program.
It's all good.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jasper.
Thank
so
you.
much. Take care.
So funny.
Bye-bye.
But you
Bye-bye.
know, we do need to discuss the somatic experience with HSP because HSP people are so sensitive that actually the body work calms them down. It puts them back in their body.
Absolutely.
It's a great
yoga
technique to
is
work.
incredible
Oh, yeah.
for that.
Absolutely.
Because, and the reason why yoga works so much is because when you're one of the very well-known Bessel van der Kolk, who's in Boston, who studies trauma, uses yoga in his practice because, you know, when you're made to do a pose and you hold it and then you change, your brain is telling your body, okay, you can stand this, and then it changes. And so it teaches your body to tolerate more different when we're dysregulated, which is what HSP is all about. When we're overwhelmed, our nervous system gets dysregulated. So it teaches the body to tell the mind, we can handle this, we're okay, and it teaches us to regulate. So it's a really important.
So it is an important one.
Yeah.
Wow, how great.
Wonderful. We have another caller for you on the line. His name is Jason, and then after Jason, we have Marla. So
Okay.
Marla, just be patient with
Jason.
us.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, welcome, Jason.
Thank you.
Jason, what is your birth date?
July 28th, 74.
Oh, 74.
And Jason,
Okay.
would you refer to yourself as being highly sensitive?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
And I've been told that my entire life. Totally true.
Okay.
Oh, what do they say specifically? Tell us what your biggest problem is with being HSP.
My biggest problem, I was just joking last night that sometimes I don't even know if I should text somebody or call someone or Facebook message them. And it sounds really funny, but something even as that simple can cause so much anxiety.
Oh.
And anxiety,
Right, and-
why?
Why?
Yeah, what's the cause of anxiety? That they might not respond, or what is the cause? What's causing you anxiety when you think about texting or
No.
Facebooking somebody?
I just want everything to be simplified.
You want everybody,
there's so
everything
many-
to be
there's-
what?
There's so many ways of communicating with people. It's like, it would be so much easier if we could just have, like, that one way. So, I don't even, I try not to text anybody.
Okay, so what's causing the anxiety is not knowing which would be the best way to communicate to them because there's so many different ways that you can communicate with them?
Totally.
Okay.
Okay, so you get overwhelmed then.
Oh, yeah, big time. And I'm sensitive to light and to temperatures, to personalities.
Okay.
Even, I was listening to the last conversation, and it was really interesting because of the electrocution.
Yes.
I'll be in a car, and I will know when I'm going to get shocked by the car before it happens.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's
Yeah. And
highly
then
sensitive.
sometimes it's highly sensitive, yeah. And, I'll touch the car, and you'll see the spark fly up in the air.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
I will say you'd have to be wildly intuitive as well. Were you always intuitive as a child?
Yeah, always.
So let me ask you this, have you had intuitive dreams?
I have, I wouldn't answer it that way. I would say that I have the wildest dreams of anyone I've ever known. Like, I explain my dreams to people, and they're constantly blown away by what's in my, the dreams. So,
Are they lucid dreams? Like a lucid dream is where it's, it's more than just a regular dream.
Where you can control
Where
it.
where you can control it, or where appears so real.
it appears really real. Really, really real. To the point where sometimes I don't even like going to sleep because I don't know what my dream state's going to be.
Oh my God, that is
Wow.
HSP.
And we have noted here also sleep paralysis from time to time. You experience that?
Yeah, I've absolutely had sleep paralysis. I've had that, 20, 30 years.
What is sleep paralysis? Are you familiar with that? I'm not familiar with it. How does that play out for you?
The sleep paralysis is that, when you're coming out of the waking state, you basically wake up, but you don't open up your eyes yet. You can't move any part of your body. You're basically frozen, but you're awake. You can hear all the things that are happening on the outside. You struggle and try to move like your fingertip. You struggle and try to open your eye or to wiggle a toe just to engage your body back into the wake state.
Wow.
Wow.
How often does that happen
It's
to you?
actually terrifying.
I
No,
bet.
thank
Well,
God.
it's great fear.
No, thank God it doesn't happen often.
Okay.
Well, you bring up a good point. HSP they feel fear often. I mean, that is great fear.
Oh, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Did you?
Oh, yeah, you know,
Go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, and we don't need, we don't need to get into it. But did you suffer some trauma in your childhood?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
Yeah, there's trauma I remember, that, and then I have whole blocks of things that are just gone.
Yeah.
Like, I know the other stuff that's happened. The trauma I could tell you about that's really no big. In a way, it's no big deal, and it shaped kind of who I am now. Is at the age of 9, I lost all my hair everywhere.
Oh my
That's
God,
how-
that's huge anxiety. That's great
Yeah.
fear. So
So
your hair just fell
Go
out
ahead.
in the middle of the night or whenever you woke up and it was gone?
no, it's called alopecia, and it's
Yeah.
a process that happens for me over a few months.
yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot of really cool things about it in terms of you start to ask yourself from a very young age, like, okay, who am I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You definitely ask yourself questions that 9-year-olds don't ask themselves.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you do come in as a very old soul. You particularly come in as a very old soul. What did you have you? You also came in as to help with, like as a loving father, to help with children or help with other people as a mentor. Have you been able to express that?
I would say no. One of the I write a lot of music, and there's an album I'm working on, which would be a debut record.
Okay.
And I have a personal mission statement, which is just to bring hope and inspiration to the world. So,
Okay.
Well, that's it.
That would be it. Yeah, that's really what I'm saying.
So it's not right. It's not father specific to just a few kids, but it's to the masses.
Specific, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you carry that would have caused it, knowing, because we choose everything before what we're going to do before we incarnate, knowing that that's what you're going to do. Your soul, as an HSP person, we know what is going on. We know. And when there's, so we will bring experiences to us to help we'll get to know ourselves well, as you just pointed out at 9 years old. I mean, that's quite an experience that you had, that you brought in. So you did get to understand and express yourself with that then.
sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Amazing story.
Well, I don't know if you've been in therapy before, but I would highly.
I'm in therapy right now.
Okay. Well, no, good for you. I mean,
for you.
it's about understanding and making sense of what happened to us and healing those wounds so they don't have to affect us in the present. But I would highly recommend, like I did with Jasper, to do some somatic body work, and you can do it in conjunction with your own therapist if your therapist isn't trained in the somatic piece. And I can give you some referrals depending on where you live, but I would highly recommend it because, again, we store our trauma in our bodies. And and working it through the body, it will help you because that will help dissipate that energy that many times gets stuck in our nervous system and our muscles.
Yeah, I totally get it. And, one of the things my therapist and I are working on are mind-body connection. And
Yes,
we had a
wonderful.
conversation about a month ago where she said that your body is the healing part of you.
Yes. Yeah.
And I just for once in therapy, I shut the hell up and I just listened.
Well,
Intrigued.
right. Well, we can heal our childhood wounds through our body. It's not even so much the story. The story is secondary to what your body is, how your body is reacting as you're telling the story. So many times I'll have somebody come in and they just gave me one sentence, and the rest of the time their body guided me on how to help them,
So you just
release
followed
that
the energy.
The body is telling me. Their body is telling me what I need to do.
Wow.
So with a therapist, usually there's another level of body work where it's hands-on, and there's therapists. I'm not trained in this, but there's therapists that are trained to actually put their hands. It's not massage, but they put their hands in different parts of the body that can help release different things. It's quite amazing.
And it's very calming.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially for an HSP. Often they don't feel safe in this world.
Yeah. So when you add a traumatic trauma in your childhood, it can exacerbate it, and you really don't have to live with both. If you heal the wounds from your childhood, you can then continue being HSP, but there's many things that you can do in your HSP-ness that wouldn't overwhelm you as much as maybe you're feeling overwhelmed now. And I'm going to venture to guess that the sleep paralysis would actually go away. It seems like that's coming more from trauma than from being HSP.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And let me just say this too, Jason. This is quite a year for you. It's a powerful year. There'll be some endings, some new beginnings, but it brings in a lot of power, particularly in your career and in your health and in your career. I'm getting. So just this is a good year. Brings out powerful events for you, and one of them is embracing who you are.
Embrace who you are,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just determined that this has to be an amazing year. But I got to be honest, it's also a time of the most incredible transitions, and by incredible I mean challenging.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like every single week for the past 6-7 weeks or so, I've been either ending relationships or setting boundaries with people or situations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's becoming easier to do that, which is a good, healthy thing.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, it's really challenging because if I'm taking all the relationships that I know and I'm ending them, it's just challenging. But then the opposite side of it is that it creates an opening for a lot of new, good people to come in.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to remember. You always also have to stay on the positive side of everything. You can't for a second be negative. It's not your friend, negativity. You have got to remain upbeat, positive, and embrace your sensitivity. Embrace it. It's why you're a musician.
No, I do embrace it.
Yeah.
There you go. Go you.
Any particular question before we wrap, Jason?
The only question I have, of course, is like the thing I've always wanted, right? It's the love thing. It has nothing to do with HSP, but I mean, bring it.
Well, it kind of does, somewhat.
Well, somewhat. Yeah. But, it's interesting. You will have love in this lifetime. Absolutely. You came in to experience great love. But you also came in to experience great love with, as you put in your mission statement, in the world. You came in with a bigger idea than the normal person, than the average person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I'm fully aware of that every time I'm sitting down and working on my music.
Well, good. That's good. But also, make sure you're meditating, taking care of yourself, make sure that they're telling me that to make sure that even when you drive, that you're careful when you drive.
Okay, I'm laughing because I've been doing the whole like Lyft/Uber driving thing.
What?
I've had like 15 things go wrong with my car in the past 6 months. So
okay,
he's had nothing but car trouble.
Okay,
that's
funny. It's been really, really rough. And the background noise. I'm on the bus today. So
okay.
Well, and with regards to the love situation, sometimes we don't realize because it's not a conscious thought. As kids, when our parents don't meet our needs, for whatever reason, then many times a child will interpret that as I'm not lovable,
right,
or I'm not worthy of love. And
totally
so whether it's a conscious thought or not, if we don't heal those wounds, then we may, our left brain may say, I want love, but we may not feel worthy of it, so we won't invite it in, or we'll invite the wrong people in. So that's something that you can also heal through your therapeutic work, and then you can be open and actually really believe at that core place that you are deserving of love. And I think that things will change for you with that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
You're very,
so welcome.
very welcome.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, thank you so much for calling,
Thanks for
Jason.
calling.
All right. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
You too.
We have one more caller, so we're going to get her on the line here in just a second. But go ahead and just give your overview of that call.
Okay.
That was really
Hi,
interesting.
Periscope.
Hi, Periscope.
This is new to us, so I forget to.
We're in all
turn
different.
around and
I've been
say
like
hello.
this the whole time.
Have you really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's been
Oh
waving.
yeah. I have my
That's
Periscope
wonderful.
fans.
That's wonderful. I love it.
That was interesting to talk about sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
I'm unfamiliar with that.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes, I don't know the medical basis
to look
behind
that
it,
one up.
but it, there's that, there's sleep terrors, and there's a lot of things, and they can stem from trauma or from, feeling unsafe.
And also really as an HSP person, you could be more prone to, you're sensitive to these things.
And that's why, when there's, let's say, two siblings and they grow up in the same environment, we think the same environment, and then one is totally different than the other. Right. One's more affected than the other. And we say, well, what happened? They had the same parents.
Right.
This HSP, temperament can make that difference.
Well, it's so interesting too. Notice both callers that we just had. One was an actor and one was a musician.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And we have Marla on the line now.
Yes. Hi, Marla.
Hi.
Hi there. Hey, Marla. What's your birth date?
My birthday is February 21. Are we going to have a party?
That's very
We just
funny.
might.
we just might. Oh my gosh. Well, you come in. You're very practical. You have had to work your ass off your whole life. I'm telling you that. You're a hard worker.
Yeah, that's very accurate, as a matter of fact.
Now, would you say you are HSP? Because I wouldn't have gotten that. That's why I'm asking.
I can't. I haven't. Let me just say this. Practically, I've never even heard of the acronym. I have a lot of diagnosed people in my family, including children.
Okay.
That carry the titles of borderline, bipolar.
Oh.
I've never really even looked into. Is it HSP?
HSP, yeah. Highly sensitive
it's very
person.
Possible. It's definitely very possible.
Yeah.
So, I have never done the work to diagnose or to actually know what those symptoms really are all about until I'm just really listening to you guys today. It's the first time I've actually heard of that acronym. So, I will look at it though.
Oh, good.
So, is there any way that we can help you? Do you have a specific question for us?
Yeah, just part of what for me, just calling in, really just kind of wanting to get a read because there's a lot of just crazy dysfunction that I deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, I bet you did. That's why you came in with as much energy as you did, actually. Is there are you divorced, and was there a man around you that you, I don't know if you left recently, but that is causing you a lot of problem? A male?
There is a man around me right now that's causing me a lot of problems, but he happens to be my husband.
Yeah. That's very funny. And you're still married to him?
I am. It'll be 28 years in March.
Oh, my gosh. Wow. Because you come in with a tremendous amount of power. Is he overwhelmed by your power?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he'd have to be.
Most people are.
Good for you.
I mean, yeah, she would be the opposite of HSP. Oh, good. Well, let's see. So what I feel about you? Oh, okay. You were very close to your mother, and although there may have been some issues with your mother, but your mother's mother as well. Is that accurate?
Recently close to my mother, but have had a lot of issues with my mother. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
We literally have just forged a reunion with our relationship pretty much over the last probably 10 years, maybe 8 even.
Okay.
Maybe even 5.
All right.
Pretty traumatic for me early on.
I bet. Well, you did not choose an easy life path. We know that. You did not choose something easy. But what I am getting is that there is a big part here. They're telling me about forgiveness. And there's a part of that is hard for you to let go. And in this next year, you're going to be having these experiences that will help you. We'll call them challenges that are going to help you to learn to let go. Because you actually... I see some changes too. What do you do for a living? Because I also look like you're going to be changing, I don't know if it's careers or changing something right away.
Equal investment in entertainment as well as physical fitness.
As well as physical fitness.
Yeah, I'm an actual certified fitness trainer.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, because you come in with a lot of energy.
And I also do entertainment.
Okay, so you do
Radio,
them both.
TV.
You're going to get a lot of energy by releasing anger and fear. It's not your friend holding on to anything, from even with your mother. And I'm being guided to tell you that it's time to let go and release any anger that you have towards anybody around you, because you hold so much energy that when you're angry, I would say get out of the country. Does that make sense?
So much sense that on December 23rd, 2015, I wrote a statement down to myself that said, it's time to prepare 2016. It's got to be all about me. And when I say all about me, part of what you see is I do carry a lot of resentment, just for the load and the responsibility that I've taken on in my life.
Oh yeah,
for everybody.
Well, because you have that kind of ability. You take on everything, actually. But in this lifetime, so we choose everything before we incarnate of what we want to do. And I'm being guided to tell you it's time now, because you're holding on to so much. You have so many good things to look forward to, so many good things that you've got to release all this stuff. It is not your friend. Hold on, let go of any old resentments, and you're doing it for you. That's what you're doing it for. You don't have to forget, but just let it go. It's not helping you. It will hold you back and physically hold you back.
Right, which I'm definitely experiencing.
Okay.
Do you have a hard time setting boundaries or saying no to people?
For the people in my heart circle, absolutely.
Okay. So that's what it seems like when you say that, this year's for you. I just had the thought in my mind that maybe you, and I don't know this for a fact, maybe you were a parentified child, or you had to become the parent early on before you should have. And of course, we should never be our parents' parents. They should be parents. But sometimes it works out that way. And then as an adult, many times we have a hard time setting boundaries because we're so used to just taking over and doing it.
That's one part of it. And the other part of it is you came in as a Ford truck. I mean, you can do anything. Honestly, if she sets her mind to it, she's already done it.
Yeah.
But it takes all that energy, and you got to work. This is the year for you because it's a 9 and it's an ending year. So you're going to let go of these old patterns that are no longer helping you. Holding on to other people's shit is not your job. No longer. It can't be. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you can do it.
Or doesn't mean you should do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I'm really trying to really come to grips with. Some kind of way, no in my life to those that I love. And by the way, all the children at this point are grown.
Good.
One soon to be 29, one 26, and one 22.
Wow.
And I think no for me has always really meant there's a sense of responsibility of letting them down in areas in my brain that I feel like, based on my experience, that I know that they just can't handle. But some kind of way, that's a very hard thing for me, and that's what I've come to grips with, because I say it. Like I said to them, I talked to the whole family, and I said, look, my saying yes to me is going to mean me saying no to you. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be, I need to tell you that that's the only way that it's going to work.
Well, and that will help them they'll have to grow and learn too. They come in to learn their life lessons as well.
Well, I think one, being a borderline is also very hard, because I feel like, I mean, and we know that that's the case because there's been a formal diagnosis.
Oh, okay, dear.
So then use that as an opportunity to practice setting boundaries, because with a borderline, setting boundaries is very important. They will feel contained that way, but once you set a boundary, if they see a tiny little
space,
they will take it. So it's a consistent, opportunity for you to practice setting boundaries. And setting boundaries doesn't have to be done in a cruel, confrontive, offensive way. Sometimes we have to get stern, but I use, those as, I see those as opportunities to help us practice something that we're not that comfortable doing or that good at doing. And a borderline will always give us opportunities to practice boundaries.
You betcha.
Well, the borderline is also the mother of my grandson.
Oh, always the case, isn't it? I know. Shirley and I are just cringing here.
Right.
Because they're
right. As you know to do.
Yeah, we do.
Is that the boundaries with the BPD were very clear.
Yeah.
Once we understood the diagnosis, then came the baby.
Oh,
And so then it was
so hard.
the protection every day, the prayer of just, let me just be in this, knowing that I'm compromising a lot of the boundaries that had already become so clear to keep him safe.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So,
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I
That's
do.
a
And we're
tough
both
one.
mothers. We get that.
That is a tough one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really tough
so
one.
that's kind of where we are now. It's just, that it's that reality of that, between the borderline, the 29, and the bipolar 26, who's now back home, recently diagnosed and needing help. So how much responsibility is really what I struggle with? Should I really, when I say let go, how much responsibility, and can I be comfortable? Am I even strong enough to be comfortable with the outcome of what I know the crisis could be of that let go?
That's a really good question. Interesting. I'm going to go back to, you came in with a tremendous amount of power, a tremendous amount. I mean, you're something else.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, because this is new for you, it's going to be a little bit of trial and error. But I would use your support system around you, and the support system, hopefully that they will, I don't know if they're in therapy, and now with these new diagnoses, I don't know if they're open to that. And if they are, then they will, encourage them to use their support systems.
When were they diagnosed?
Well, you already know what a BPD is. And so you already know the
Well, they're
answer
not.
To the BPD, the therapy thing is a hell no.
Well, right, because it's very hard for them to own anything. It's always everybody else's fault. And part of that is understanding that and trying to let go as much as you can. Now you have your grandchild, and I hear you saying that you want to make sure that they're safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you're right. And as he gets older, I get easier with the outcome of that. But again, when you just mentioned something, lean on the support system around me, that is the one thing that I realize, even in physical ways now at almost 48, that I'm beginning to break down, because I'm that to everybody, to my mother, to my husband, to the kids, to the grandchild. I'm that. There is nothing. I mean, even in therapy, I come home and I live, with this weight of organization. I'll put it to you this way, especially for listeners, and somebody else may be able to relate to this. I had to sit my husband, the 26-year-old, and my son down the other day and say, I just need you guys to understand, the only free time, or the only time for myself I'm able to get, is when you're actively working, doing something else. The minute you're not occupied, you are attached to me, literally. Like, where are you? What are you doing? What, it's that need that I can't, and I keep smacking it off. But that's what it is.
Is she also an
it's very
empath,
hard
Kelly?
because some kind of,
I wouldn't
some
necessarily
kind of
say
way
that.
you assume that's love. That rejection means I don't love you. That they clearly anticipate that. So,
well, it's going to require you also to set boundaries for yourself. And sometimes when you have never had the opportunity to practice that, because even as a kid you had to be the stronger one and the one to take over, then think about it this way. If a friend came to you and gave you the same scenario that you're saying, and she wants to learn how to start doing for herself, what advice would you give her? And take that advice for yourself.
Good idea.
And many times when we take ourselves out of it, it's a little easier to kind of figure out what we need to do to get to where we want to be.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I totally agree with that. Of course, it's a lot harder said than done. but
We
I
do
think-
Absolutely.
know, and we feel your pain. As an empath, I really do.
Absolutely. Pick one thing, though. Pick one thing that's doable, that you can start with. Even if that's 1 hour once a week, that's for you. Whether you want to go to the coffee shop, or you want to go visit a friend, or you want to go to a yoga class, pick one thing. Let's say if, I'm just throwing this out as a possibility. So 1 hour a week, and do that for a while. And once you get that down pat, then pick something else. Sometimes when we want to change, we put too many things, and then we set ourselves up to fail. So just pick one thing that you'd like to do, that you've always wanted to do or change that you haven't done, and start there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to change my life course for 500, please.
You're very funny.
Love it.
God.
But
I'd like to spin the wheel one more time. If you don't mind. Can I get a reset?
Well, remember, we all choose the people in our lives. We've chosen them before we incarnate. Wonder why you would choose them. I have them in my family as well, and I've often wondered that myself, though.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that is very helpful. It's also in line with what I know at this point in my life needs to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very glad to have had this opportunity to have this chat with you ladies.
Well, thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you so much for calling.
All right.
Let us know. Call us in a couple of months and let us know how you're doing.
Yes, please.
Oh, you mean from the island that I went to?
Right, yeah. They have Wi-Fi there sometimes.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I can get service on the island. I'm determined this time. Really, seriously, we joke, but one of the things is going to have to be to teach myself to detach. So I'm decided on a couple of things that are going to really be called my timeout. And I'm literally just going to take a full-on timeout. I'm just going to time myself out. And I say, you guys, I tell you what, it's clear. This is actually a joke, but it's funny, but it's pointed. I tell my children, people are like, oh, kids fly away. I said, well, my children are shearwater. Shearwater is a bird in Hawaii, and on the north shore of Kauai, they have to turn the lights off at one of their major hotels because at a certain mating season, these birds fly to the light and hit the glass window and die.
Oh, no.
So I said, I have shearwater kids. They fly home and hit the porch. I'm like, oh my God, they're wounded again. Come in. They don't really leave. Like, they don't ever take flight. They just go around the corner so they know that when they're wounded, they can lay on my doorstep.
Oh my
I'm
God.
like, oh my God, they're back on the doorstep. Come inside.
Oh my gosh.
That is hilarious.
That's kind of it. So if they can stay, this time I told them, you guys stay. It's clear you're Velcro to me and this place.
Yeah.
I'll go.
Yeah. Well,
I'll check in and give you guys an update.
That'd
please
be great.
do. We would love that.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Take
have a
care.
good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Boy, that was interesting.
Wow.
That was very interesting.
Very interesting. It's what we were talking about, borderline, bipolar.
Right.
And then
and so many
HSP.
people finding themselves in that place where they've been the caretaker probably
Right.
from day one and don't know how to change that, how to switch
And
it.
it's hard to do with an or with a borderline.
The borderline, yeah.
That's a hard piece. My heart goes out to her.
Yeah, absolutely.
But she's a Ford truck. She can do it.
She can do it. Yeah.
Well, you ladies were excellent.
So, well,
I learned a
thank
lot
you.
during
Hi,
this show.
Periscope.
Oh,
Hey,
yes.
Periscope.
So thank you for watching and listening, and we wish you a wonderful afternoon.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo Dr. Shirley and Kellee White. Two perspectives, one world.
So how did she call? Was she a friend?